More exciting news. A few days ago, a report has been released. It is a report on barriers to e-mobility in Tanzania. For those that may not be aware, the report is a collaboration amongst three key main players. We have UN Habitat, we have AFEMA, and we have UWEMI. So AFEMA, of course, stands for Africa E-Mobility Alliance. UWEMI stands for Urban Electric Mobility Initiative. Of course, this report is the first of a two-part series. So the first part is the one that tackles issues to do with barriers to e-mobility in Tanzania. The second part, which I'm going to share with you guys once it has come out, is going to tackle issues to do with policy environment for the adoption of electric vehicles in the country, Tanzania. After going through the report, I must say, well, I am both excited and disappointed at the same time. I'm excited for some of the developments that is happening in the country and for my brothers and sisters in Tanzania, but I'm also concerned with some things that have been raised in the report. But before I give you my take, let me encourage you to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Thank you. Let's get into the good part of the report. Firstly, the report says that there is an exponential increase in the number of electric vehicles on the roads in Tanzania. And I think this is exciting news. Why do I think this is exciting news? Well, it means more people are beginning to realize that actually once you deal with the upfront cost of buying an electric vehicle, the operation costs are very, very minimal, and therefore this is cheaper in the long term. And I think this is good for an economy, for individuals. I also came across a BBC documentary in which the BBC interviewer was interviewing border borders, as they are called in Tanzania. These are taxi drivers. Each one of them that was interviewed kept mentioning about cost, and they were excited about the cost reduction that they were seeing operating these electric motorbikes compared to the nasty gasoline powers electric bikes. So I think this is just putting the whole thing together and agreeing with the report that we saw from BBC a few months ago. The other interesting part about this report is that it mentions that about more than 5,000 electric vehicles are on Tanzanian roads. And by their estimation, that number is bigger than all other East African countries combined. So that's including Kenya, Uganda, and other East African countries. Combine them, they are being beaten at their game compared to Tanzania. Kudos, Tanzania. Great job. Great job. Now I must address the naysayers. I know they're going to say, well, these are two-wheelers and three-wheelers. We would want to talk about electric vehicles that are four-wheelers, sedans, compact SUVs, other SUVs. Well, that could be true, but you must understand that the situation in Africa is a little different. The transportation of people in most of these big cities is using these two-wheelers and three-wheelers. The more people are transitioning from all other forms of transportation to these two-wheelers and three-wheelers, the more we are killing the gasoline motor vehicle powered industry. And I think this is good news, because if you think about the public health, if you think about the cost saving, I think this is going to be great news for Africa going forward. So I'm excited about that, irrespective of what the naysayers are saying. So another exciting news in this report is that there are many players, many companies are competing in the EV space in Tanzania. And I think that's the great news. Why? Because that competition is going to bring down the prices for these electric vehicles. So for someone to acquire or to own an electric vehicle to become much cheaper as the competition intensifies. And that is good news, because then we can adopt these electric vehicles right here in Africa. And I think that's a great news. So I'm excited about that as well. Now to the things that I'm concerned with that have been revealed by this report. Number one, the report that there is lack of clarity on how to register these electric vehicles in Tanzania is very, very concerning. I think the Tanzanian government should put in place measures to bring clarity to this aspect. It's very, very important. Something that I also find particularly concerning, and that is to do with government policy to incentivize the adoption of electric vehicles. So they have come through the pages of the policy documents in Tanzania, and they cannot find any deliberate policies that have been put in place to encourage the adoption of electric vehicles. And I think this is very concerning. I think the government of Tanzania should understand that for citizens to migrate away from fossil fueled mobility to e-mobility, there's just need for incentives. Think about it. If you check the website of the Revenue Authority of Tanzania, you'll find something very striking. They categorize the duties of import vehicles based on the engine sizes, based on how old the used vehicle is, which tells me that they understand that there is an influence in terms of the emissions that come from older vehicles or vehicles with bigger engines, and therefore they must be charged at a higher rate when it comes to import duties. Why would you do the same for electric cars? I don't understand. Why would you do that? There's a need to be honest about these things and to appear to be honest. And I think the Tanzanian government should do something to bring down the duty that is associated with importing electric vehicles, because they're in a different class and they are contributing to migrating away from our emissions and destroying our own environment. And it is for this reason that I'd like to encourage the Tanzanian E-Mobility Association to come together, work together, and lobby the government to introduce these duty exemptions for electric vehicles. As some of the members might recall, that the Association for Renewable Energy was able to achieve duty exemption when they came together and lobbied the government to remove duty that is associated with PV, solar, photovoltaics. So I think the Tanzanian E-Mobility Association can achieve a similar feat if they come together and work together. Then the report also highlighted the issue of funding to e-mobility startup. And I think this is a very big issue that is hindering the advancement of e-mobility in Tanzania. So I do not understand why Tanzania has lagged behind on this, comparing with other East African countries. So if you check Uganda, you check Kenya, there's an appreciable amount of funding that has gone into e-mobility startups. But for some reason, Tanzania has not benefited from this funding that is flowing into East Africa. So I would like to shine a light on that one. For anyone who would be listening to this video, if you have an interest to invest in East Africa, I think Tanzania is ripe for that. And I would like also to take this opportunity to reach out to our friends in other continents, North America, Southern America, in Asia, and other areas. Please, this is an area where you can invest some of your resources, and I'm very positive you're going to get back your money, your investment. As long as you do a very good due diligence, you should be able to get back your money, because Tanzania is a fast-growing economy and is poised to become a much, much bigger economy than it is today. And if you invest in that country, you are most likely going to get your money back and some more. Before I finish this video, I would like to make a clarification on something that I noticed in the report. It mentions that the Tanzanian energy mix is much dirtier than it was in the past decade, because the Tanzanian government has adopted some natural gas in the production of electricity. As much as the facts are correct, but the way it was explained might be misleading to people who are not familiar with Tanzania. If you study very carefully, you'll find that going forward, Tanzania has a number of projects that have been planned, and most of these in the hydroelectric power generation. So they will be over 60 to 70% electric power generated from renewable sources in the near future, maybe 5 years or so. And because of that, the current scenario is just a transitional scenario, and it should not make anyone to label Tanzania as a dirtier grid mix. So, those are my thoughts on the report that has just been released, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on the reports. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.